welcome Ron Carman, Disney Carman, our Disney Imagineering, and he's been very kind in taking time this weekend to be with us and to share his experience at Disney Imagineering for more than 20 years. Yeah, exactly. And remember, I showed you a screenshot that he was featured also in the documentary of the 50 years in Walt Disney World, and there's a book also written about Ron's experience. So, without further ado, I'd like Ron to share his experience with you. Yeah, all yours, Ron.
All right. Welcome, everyone. Thought I'd start off by giving you a little bit of background about who I am, where I came from. I was born and raised in Hollywood, California. My grandfather actually built the house I was born and raised in. I lived a block from the ABC television studios, which now is owned by the Disney Corporation. And as a child, I got to spend a lot of my summers on the actual lot. There were many, many shows, none of which any of you will have any memory of. But in case you happen to see clips, one of the most famous ones was called American Bandstand. And so I was one of the high school kids that got to dance on the show. And that was kind of the destiny of where I was going to be in life. I seemed to gravitate towards entertainment venues of one type or another. So as my parents ended up divorcing right when I graduated from high school. I relocated to another city at the time, entered college, not quite knowing what I was going to do at that particular time in my life. I was very confused with my parents being divorced and that kind of thing. So in the midst of my college, I ended up being drafted and spent 2 years in the Army. I was stationed in Fort Bragg, North Carolina, and fortunately, it was during the time of the Vietnam War, but I escaped going overseas. I did jump out of airplanes. I was a paratrooper, and that was the most exciting part. The rest of it was I was an assistant mess sergeant for the unit I was in, and one of my passions is cooking. I love it. When I got out of the service, I ended up going back to my previous employer. They mistakenly laid me off, which was my good fortune. And I said, well, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go back to college. But it was in November, and semester didn't start till January. So I went to the Unemployment Bureau, and they sent me on a job interview to a place called WED Enterprises. WED was the initials for Walter Elias Disney. And so they took me on a tour of the facility, and I was like a kid in a candy store. It was an amazing place to be able to see. They offered me a job, and I said yes. I'll get it more into my career at WDI later. I spent 21 years there. I ended up getting stolen away by Mitsubishi, was starting their own division that was like a WED Enterprises, and they hired me as project director. The camera reminds me of one of my first presentations that I made when they sent over a whole group of people to see how our progress was moving along. And they all set up their cameras, and we turned the lights out so that I could show my slides. And then when we turned the lights on, I noticed all of them were sound asleep. Turns out that when they go on business trips, they party hardy, and they didn't go to bed and were sound asleep by noontime. I ended up leaving there, going to another company that was into building special effects. Again, I was the project director for that company, and that company ended up folding. I ended up then going to Sony Pictures Entertainment and was again project manager. They had bought the old MGM studio lot and converted it up to 21st century technical motion picture taking facilities. As that was coming to an end, Universal Studios was starting to build Islands of Adventures down here. They offered me a job as project director for Jurassic Park. I completed that project and ended up deciding to stay here in Florida. Life here was a lot better than Los Angeles was. Cost of living was better. I loved to fish. I loved to play golf. All those things were available even out of my back door, really. So then I ended up getting an offer to work in a construction company down in Miami. They were building a theme park called Jungle. So I was the construction manager and built that. As that came to an end, I ended up getting an offer to come back to the Orlando area as a project manager to build some of the high-rises you see in downtown Orlando. Then 2008 struck the world, and projects were shutting down left and right. I ended up returning to Universal Studios. Dubai was a year behind the rest of the world as far as the financial calamity was concerned, so they were still moving forward building a theme park in Dubai. Well, they were planning on building, and then reality finally hit in with them too, and that project shut down. Then I ended up going back to Disney, working in contracts, and that led me to picking up a job working with a construction company. They hired me as the Orlando office vice president running that division. And then I retired. And I've been playing golf and fishing to my heart's content, and enjoying myself with opportunities like this to talk to you guys. So let me move on here. Some of my, as I mentioned, cooking is my passion. My early career was in the food industry. I did everything from cooking, waiting tables, washing dishes, the whole gamut. In my military career, I was the assistant mess sergeant. I also spent time being a machinist, working in the aerospace industry. Then I went to WED, Spectre Effects, I mentioned, Sony Pictures. I went through all of that. Yep. All right, so what is an Imagineer? It's basically a storyteller that utilizes all the senses, emotions, creativity, sciences, engineering, imagination, and hard work in order to communicate a story, with the end result creating happiness and joy being felt by all those that experience the environment created. The environment could be a ride, a theater, a museum, a garden, or an entertainment spectacular displayed in the street, in the waterways, or in the sky. I know that some of you are wanting, well, how do I get into getting a job working for Disney? Well, one of the sure ways is there's a university in California called Cal Arts. It was a university started by Walt Disney himself, and many of the artists that work at WED Enterprises or Walt Disney Imagineering got their start there. Another good inroad is having a background in the film industry. A lot of what you see is basically we're telling stories utilizing many of the film elements, but we come to 3D because they have to build all these sets and stages and equipment to be able to film. Well, it's the same thing that happens in the attractions. So that's another way. Find jobs now we have many theme parks. Universal's going crazy trying to catch up to Disney and building theme parks. So there's a lot of cross-utilization between Universal and Walt Disney. The other way is basically being persistent with a flair and creativity. Many of the people I've worked with got their starts by building models and sending those into WDI, saying, here, this is kind of things I do. That sometimes opens doors to let you in. The other, obviously, is you find someone that already has a job at WDI and have them put in a good word for you. Now also, the industry has grown enormously. There are vendors and suppliers of all kinds that provide rides, show equipment, special effects, audio systems, all of that. You could get jobs with those vendors, then make your contacts with WDI, which will give you an opening and an opportunity to move in. As far as education is concerned, WDI is a complete organization of everything you can imagine. There are engineers, obviously, there are architects, but there are makeup artists, there are hairstylists, there are costume people, set fabricators, sculptors, writers, programmers, lawyers, you name it. You can get a job within the organization and can feel a part and be a part of creating these wonderful attractions in the theme parks. Of course, formal education obviously in today's world opens the doors. I was extremely fortunate. As I mentioned, I had only had 2 years of college, and I was able to start off in the warehouse, but in a very short time, I met the head of engineering. He offered me an opportunity, and again, I'll get into the 21-year adventure that I went through in that. The types of engineers that are available, there's facility engineers, so civil engineers, mechanical, structural, electrical. Then there's a whole plethora of show and ride engineers, mechanical, hydraulics, pneumatics, optical, audio, projects, projection, video, lighting, acoustics, software, and electronics. And then the back of house, Disney hires many industrial engineers. The industrial engineers spend a lot of time figuring out how do you plan the overall project. We start with what is the expected capacity, annual capacity for the park, and then the industrial engineers will do studies to determine how many rides and attractions we need, how many restaurants we need, how many tables in those restaurants, bathrooms, where the water fountains will go. And then once the park is open, the industrial engineers are studying the flow of people. It's amazing how we all seem to be somewhat programmed into doing almost the same thing. Most people head to the left when starting off, walking through a park, and a few head to the right. Some dash to the far end, and what they try and do is they want to control the amount of people standing in lines and not wasting time while they're in the park. So they come up with ways of augmenting the flow of traffic within the park. They also help in the operations, in the merchandise, and in the food. If you go into a Disney park, you can get fed immediately. Now they've gone to, basically you can do your ordering right on the phone, walk up to the window and pick up. So it's industrial engineering that does a lot of those aspects in the park. And they do a phenomenal, amazing job for us. All right. At WDI, as I mentioned, I lucked out in being able to be hired. I was laid off from my machinist job and went to the Unemployment Bureau. They sent me on an interview. I fell in love with the place, started working in the warehouse area. And as a side note, Card Walker was the CEO of the company. He also started in the mailroom. Part of the job working in the warehouse is to be a mail person. Back in the days, the way we would communicate with people was through inter-office communications. We had what was called an inter-office envelope. It was usually a brown envelope, had holes punched in it, had on the front of it who was to, who was from. And we have these mail people pick up all these envelopes and distribute them to other in-baskets throughout. And that's how communication used to take place when I first started. That was a great training also in being able to learn about the company and meet individuals. After I did my introduction with the head of engineering, and he found out that I had a desire to be an engineer myself, he offered me an opportunity. It was just at the starting of Walt Disney World. This was in 1968. Disney World opened in 1971. And it was a whole new position. I wasn't moving into a position that existed ever before. It was called an engineering aide. And there was a number of project engineers. The park and elements within the Walt Disney World property were divided up amongst the various project engineers. We had drawing releases. We had what they call RFIs, requests for information from the contractors, and we also had shop drawing submittals. So it was my job to organize all of the drawing releases, to expedite all of the RFIs and all of the shop drawing submittals, and keep that all organized. It was so frantic. At one time I had a table about this long, and I had rolls of drawings that filled up the table that long, that high. And somehow, at that time, when I used to have brain cells, the engineers would come and say, I need to see the shop drawings for such and such. And I would be able to reach immediately for those. After the park was open, I spent many months carefully folding and logging and putting those drawings and submittals into files. Then I got the opportunity to actually learn some engineering, assigned to a structural engineer, and I was able to get on the drafting board and do structural drawings for their Country Bear Jamboree at Disneyland. It was very unique because there are not many structural engineers that know how to engineer using lumber. So this was not a steel facility, it was not a concrete facility. Most of it was using logs to simulate the country kind of facilities that you would have imagined you could find. So at the end of that, I got an opportunity to move into planning and scheduling. Fortunately, the week after I moved upstairs, they laid off the whole structural engineering department. And so now again, I ended up changing my major from mechanical engineering to industrial engineering, and learned the ins and outs of how do you plan a construction project. But beyond that, I had to do all of the details for the installation of all the show and ride equipment, and then the test and adjust period, and then the operations training and turning over the attractions to the park operators. My first job was the Space Mountain ride, and also it entailed the Wedway People Mover and the GE Carousel of Progress. So it was all really the major expansion of Tomorrowland. And fortunately, everything went fairly well, and we stayed on schedule, and I learned a lot. Then those things, as that died down, then I started doing analysis work of the architects to determine how long it took an architect to do a floor plan, an elevation, sections, details. And in that analysis, I had to integrate my time with the accounting department. They saw something in me and said, hey, we have an opening in project accounting. How would you like to be an accountant? Well, here I go, changing majors in college again. I found that I really enjoyed numbers, and got into the details, and discovered we had a problem. We had an estimating department that was staffed by people that came out of the construction industry. Now, all of the estimates that they did were very good for the facilities. For the show and ride, not so good. With my background in machinery, I did some evaluations and studies, and finally made a proposal to my boss. I said, I think we need to have a show ride estimating department. They thought it was a fantastic idea, so I moved into what a manufacturing facility was called MAPO. Anyone guess how it got the name MAPO? It was established just as Walt Disney made a fortune off of the movie Mary Poppins. So I hired some estimators to work for me, learned even more about all of the processes of building animated figures, ride systems, control systems, and one of my big achievements came when Tokyo Disneyland is a very unique situation to Disney. I don't know if you know it or not, but Disney does not own Tokyo Disneyland. It's owned by the Oriental Land Company. They came to the Disney organization and offered us what I consider a fantastic deal. Basically, no risk on our part. They would pay us everything that we spent with manpower, equipment, what have you. And we would get paid a 5% royalty fee for all admissions and a 10% royalty fee on all merchandise and food sold in the park. So you can't get a much better win-win situation. The park was extremely successful. They've now built a second park over there, and I'm hearing rumors they may even want a third park to go with that. Then EPCOT came on the scene, and they brought in someone from Walt Disney World to head up Walt Disney Imagineering. He had a strong finance background, and at the time it was more of an operations guy that was running the company for WDI. And with both projects going, the Tokyo Disneyland and EPCOT, money was flowing rapidly and needed someone that had the kind of financial experience at the helm. He came to me and said, I want to start a project finance department. So would you help build that for us? So we hired a bunch of people that had background in finance and accounting. And after a year of that, they were having troubles getting a schedule published. This was my first exposure to computers. They bought a special computer, special software called Primavera, and the problem is the software was invented to be able to show management how badly you're doing. And they could use that information going against their contractors to say, see, you're 20 days behind, you've got to catch up. Well, it didn't offer a way to show how do you correct the ship and get back on track for being able to make the opening date. We had a golden rule that once we announced the opening date for anything, we never missed it. It always opened on the date we said it was going to. So many of these schedulers, once again, came from the construction industry, and they were lost on how to change that system into a usable tool. So management again came to me and said, Ron, we need you, please help us. So I then was promoted to the EPCOT project planner and head of scheduling. I laid off 40 of the schedulers they hired, kept 9 of the best people, locked us in a conference room for a month, and using a whiteboard, I diagrammed out every single attraction and facility within EPCOT and published milestones for everything. For each department, they had their own sheet for each attraction with a milestone. And that made it so much easier for these managers to be able to figure out, how do I schedule my own department? I know this Friday I have to have this done. So they had the flexibility. No longer did they have to come back to the schedule and say, you got to redo the schedule so I can stay on track. And we did. We opened everything on time, October 1st, 1982. After that, I returned back to California. Most of these projects, I ended up relocating down to Florida. And then after finishing the project, I would go back to Southern California. Then the next thing that was starting up was the MGM Studio Tour. And I got hired as a project manager for all of the show attractions within that project. So I was responsible for the Great Movie Ride, Audio Video Theater, the Indiana Jones Stunt Show. All enormously challenging projects in themselves. The Great Movie Ride, the biggest challenge there was we went out beyond the Disney company to get the film rights for many of the attractions. We didn't have a broad enough base to satisfy the public in all of the wonderful things that have occurred in the film industry. So they struck a deal with MGM. But in the film industry, there are layers and layers of contracts. So you make one agreement with the studio, then you have to go to the producers and get into their contracts and get them to sign off, and actors, and sometimes the actors are dead, so the families. So it took quite a bit to be able to move forward with that attraction. The audio-video theater was not too much of a challenge, other than the couple of shows that we had in the 2 theaters, which were pretty easy to get the IP rights for those. The Indiana Jones Stunt Show was my biggest challenge. We struggled greatly to get Spielberg and Lucas to approve us to do that project. When the approval finally came, it was 10 months before opening. The good part is we knew the venue, so it was an outdoor theater with a roof structure that covered the stage area and the audience, and had the backstage area. So that was able to progress, not having to depend on what the show elements were. Then came the show, again 10 months to create something that Disney has never done before. We never had a live stunt show. So we had to find the right people that knew how to help us create a storyline that would utilize as many stunts as possible. And that's where I got introduced to an engineer by the name of Aidan Bradley. He also was not a college graduate, but one of the best engineers I've ever worked with. He, during his childhood and young adult, he studied ancient construction and engineering. He got as many books out of the library as possible and learned the basics of the principles of pneumatics and hydraulics and all of these things. And it was his inventiveness that made the show a success. I don't know if any of you have seen the show. It opens with a giant set piece that covers the entire stage. We call it the rolling ball set. It breaks up into 3 pieces. It's also utilized as a stage, and actors have to transverse back and forth. And how were we going to create a track system that was able to maneuver these vehicles on and off? Aidan came up with an amazing system of putting the actual, I'm going to call it a bogie, that was underneath the concrete surface, and there were plates that covered up, and it had rollers that basically, as the set piece went through, it opened the plate, and as it passed through, the plate would close back down. It was just a marvelous invention that he created throughout the show. The rolling ball is an inflated ball, but it does weigh several hundred pounds. We learned that finally the success for construction of building that was to copy a soccer ball. Trying to do just a round sphere didn't work. So we built large panels, sewed them together, sealed it, and then put a decorative coat on the top of that. There was a director who was hired by Michael Eisner to do a commercial for the MGM Studios, and they wanted to utilize my giant ball in the commercial. And here it is, summertime, and we built a big wooden platform with set pieces and launched the ball down the ramp and had Indy running away from it. This director, for a 2-second portion of the commercial, had poor Indy run down that ramp 20 times before he had the right tape. Another thing, probably you weren't able to experience it. In the audio theater, we had what's called binaural audio systems. Anybody familiar with what binaural is? We had these booths set up where you put headphones on, and we made a recording utilizing a special system where it was a human head with microphones in it. And the reproduction of that sound was so realistic, you actually sensed what was taking place. Now, the storyline includes, here, JD, we're going to give you a Coca-Cola. And you hear the pop of the pop top, and then they put the can in front of you. You can feel the bubbles on your nose. They have another scene where, okay, you need a haircut, JD, and you can feel the clippers on your hair. It was the most amazing experience I've ever had with a sound system. Again, another engineer that didn't have a college education, but learned about audio systems on his own and was able to bring that to the table and create that show. I'd like to take a minute and talk about ride systems. Now, a lot of what you experience in theme parks, there's some form of a ride system that gets you through that show. Who can identify how many ride systems we have? I mean, name some of them.
Space Mountain, Splash Mountain, and Snowbird, the ride.
Yeah.
Magic, and the
Well, I'll give you an overview here. As you mentioned, obviously, thrill rides with Space Mountain and Big Thunder and those type of rides. Anyone know how the propulsion system works on that?
I didn't hear you, sorry.
The Wedway People Mover at Walt Disney World. How many of you heard of LIM? L-I-M. It's called linear induction motors. Basically what you have is a track system, and embedded within the track system is a very strong electrical magnet. Underneath the vehicle, you have what we call a platen, which is a big metal sheet. And the linear induction motor is able to reverse polarization. So it first pulls the vehicle, and then it pushes the vehicle.
It's like a magnet.
Yes. That's one of the many creative ways that the Disney organization continue to change the ride system. Has anybody been on the Space Pavilion in EPCOT? How do you think? That's a ride. Did you know that?
Yeah, like in the boat.
You're in a capsule, looking at a television screen.
They're very close, one like you have that in front of you.
We basically copied exactly what astronauts go through.
Yeah.
It's a centrifuge. So you're actually getting 2.5 times pull of gravity when you're on that ride.
I went to the extreme one.
Star Tours.
Two points and a half G.
Pardon me?
2 points and a half G.
It's a
5 G.
He's asking about the space one. How many G-forces do you experiment?
Oh, in the Space Mountain?
Yeah.
That depends. When it first opened, we had our challenge. The G-forces were so great that after a year, we had to replace all of the car chassis. They had structural fractures, stress fractures.
How many G's are we talking?
No one ever measured them. But I can tell you when I was writing it during Test and Adjust, I had things in my pocket, and at one point they actually were floating in the air in front of me.
The dynamometer broke down.
Yeah. And that leads me to another thing. Does anyone know what a bogey is? It's the wheel system. What you have are wheels that sit on top of the track, sit on the side of the track, and underneath the track. And the wheels are made of a urethane compound. The engineer continued to experiment with different chemical makeups of that urethane. Now the ride takes 3 minutes to go around. One day he had a set of bogies that arrived with a whole new compound that he was experimenting with. Installed the bogies on the car. He was all alone. He launched off. He cut 1 minute and 20 seconds off the 3-minute ride. When he came back into the station, his eyes were as big as saucers. The organization has continued to study the urethane wheels because not only does it control the speed of the vehicles, the longevity of how often you have to replace those. The system runs every single day, 16 hours a day. And there's a lot of wear and tear. The other thing that we had to invent was that ride we did a retractor system for the seat belts. We went to the automobile industry and said, can we look at the engineering of how you do seatbelt retractors? And they sent us some samples and we installed them in the test vehicle. Before lunch, the system was broke. So we had to invent a special metal spring system that could be utilized day in and day out. Remember, every 5 minutes, another vehicle is being launched. Yes.
How do you test these solutions, those solutions, before the attraction?
Well, that's another thing I was going to touch upon. Back in those days, there was only one way we did anything. That was, you jump in it and you ride it, and you keep your fingers crossed that you don't die. My son did successfully graduate as an engineer, and currently he is working for a company where he's selling modeling. So he has been able to find software systems that can basically, with the right input and with him overseeing how it's done, he can model almost anything. One of the projects he's working on right now happens to be for the Formula One race team. I didn't know this, but their current system that they utilize for being able to analyze the racetracks it's only a 2-wheel system. So it's not giving them all the data. My son's now engineering a way that they can model all 4 wheels of the vehicle and get full feedback on the system. So in today's world, engineering modeling is the most cost-effective way. Simple test and adjust is another method that gets used frequently and probably will never go away when people say, you have to show me, you have to show me. Anyway, I got off that. One of the fun rides that isn't a ride after all, it was called the Living Seas Hydrolator. And what it was, after you go through the queue line, you would get into an elevator. And inside were all glass walls, and it gave you the impression that the elevator was actually underwater. And the ride operator would push the button for the basement, and bubbles would come up, and the floor would shake, and after a couple of minutes it would stop, doors would open on the other side, you'd exit and go on the ride. We had a guest sued Disney for getting the bends. And the Disney lawyers basically went to court, and when it came time for the defense, they said, we only have one defense. Can you bring the jury? And we're going to go to the Living Seas Pavilion. And they went there and opened both doors and saw that it was nothing more than a walkthrough. We won that case. The other, as I said, Star Tours, 6-axis motion base is becoming very predominant in a lot of areas to simulate a ride. And that again was another learning. Some of the natural things you think that you would push the joystick going forward were actually to get the motion you would pull back. So there were many things that we went through in experimenting to get the best ride experience that you can imagine. The other was utilizing film versus video. Back in those days, 70 millimeter was the way that we projected and shown most of our film work. And everyone said, well, we can't possibly put a projector on because our systems are not reel to reel. You can imagine that having to change out reels after every show. So what we created was a cabinet with loops. So the entire film would go through these cabinets and loops, and the cabinets were hermetically sealed to keep out all moisture and dust so that the film stayed clean. So we created a loop cabinet, put it on the back of the Star Wars simulator. And that's how we created. We had a shootout between the video and the film, and for clarity, and the film just knocked your socks off in comparison to video. Nowadays, video has been able to obviously come way up, and I'm sure that it's pretty much a tie between the two. The other thing I wanted to talk about, Spaceship Earth. That is what we call an omnimover ride. It is a chain of vehicles that are attached utilizing a tension bar between each vehicle, and it allows for the mechanism to move the vehicle on top, meanwhile the guidance system is down below. We have been utilizing that in Haunted Mansion and a number of attractions. It was like the first ride system we ever really used. The difference was Spaceship Earth is a 17-story structure. There are 222 vehicles holding up to 6 passengers each, and they're all tied together, and we discovered that the amount of tension that was put on those bars because of the up and down motion, having to pull this side up and to restrain this side from a free fall. We had a mad dash of a bunch of engineers working round the clock, trial and error again, manufacturing different bars, installing it on the right system, running tests, going back to the shop, making changes. So all of these systems have their challenges. There's also water rides. So we have Small World, you have Splash Mountain. Water in theme parks is an enormous challenge. You have to use chemical equipment in the water. There's splashes that get on set pieces, on steel. It is just a headache, and we hate doing water rides, but many times that's the only thing that works with the theme, so you have to go that way. And now the latest system is a trackless vehicle. I don't know if you've been able to go on the Ratatouille ride in France, or EPCOT, or the new Mickey Minnie Wild Train ride. It is a vehicle that holds 4 to 5 people, and it goes on a flat concrete floor. You can't see a thing. It's all a wire-guided system, and it's electric motor on board. And again, we're using induction coupling, so when it's in the load area, it's recharging the batteries. It's been utilized in the Energy Pavilion, which is now gone. The Great Movie Ride used that for its system. And it seems to be the ride system of choice. There's so much you could do with it. In the ride, there's a big room, and there's like 10 of the vehicles, and they're like you're a mouse, and you're scampering around this kitchen, and it's just amazing that these vehicles aren't crashing into each other, and they're moving at a great speed and stop and move. It's a lot of fun, and some of the show opportunities are pretty great. As I had mentioned that after Disney, I then went to a company called Spectra Effects. They built show action equipment for Disney and Universal. One of the things that was a challenge, our first job, was the Western Stunt Show at Universal. And there's a scene where a cowboy is leaning on a horse post, and it's got a bar across. And at one moment, then suddenly this cowboy comes up off his feet and is hanging. That was quite a challenge to create, and that was all using hydraulic systems for that. We also had a scene where the whole front of the building at one point falls down, and there's a guy that happens to be sitting in the right spot where the window goes around him so he doesn't get crushed. Part of the safety system of that is the box he's sitting on had a safety switch. So if for any reason he got off of that box, that wall would stop from coming down. I mentioned I work for Sony Pictures. The fun thing there was Spielberg was doing a movie called Hook. It was a Peter Pan movie. as most crazy creative types are, they actually built the entire pirate ship on the soundstage. It actually floated. They built a moat or a pond. The crazy thing was it took up the whole soundstage, and you have to be able to film all of the action that's taking place. This is where another engineering geniuses come in. There was a guy that knew optics and was able to create lenses for the cameras that could actually be close up, but it feels like it's many feet back and able to capture the whole scene. Jurassic Park, one of the biggest challenge was building the T-Rex that comes down at you. Again, when you're dealing with some of the dynamics of the weights, the speeds, the environment, again, it's a wet environment. The original Jurassic Park in Hollywood, the T-Rex would break once a week. We finally engineered it to where it would last 3 months, but it would break. I'm sure by now that they've been able to up that. But the one real fun job was building a lifelike Triceratops. We had a show through a walkway, like you're going through the jungle of Jurassic Park, and you come to a paddock area, and they would let a certain amount of people in. And here you'd walk in and see a real live Triceratops. This animal had moist, hot breath. It would breathe. We even programmed in a little fart that it would do once in a while. And everyone was convinced that this animal was real. Again, I was so fortunate. I ran across a guy. His name was Hall Train. Well, how he got that name, I'm still not sure. But he was so in love with the project. His own nickel, he moved from Canada down here, and on a daily basis continued to tweak and improve those Triceratops. That's the kind of dedication that it really takes to be involved in these theme parks. My final one was I did go to another different place. It's called Pear Jungle down in Miami. And I was working for a construction company at that time. And the frightening experience was I had to build an environment for an alligator that came from Vietnam. It was 20 feet in length, and it had a pond area and a beach area, and unfortunately we had a leak. And since I was responsible for the construction, I had to get in that pen with that 20-foot alligator and research where the hell the leak is. All the while keeping one eye on my friend. So, I personally think that engineering in today's world is the perfect choice for a career. It opens so many doors, and it gives you opportunities to explore the ends of the earth or even the ends of space. The choice of fields you can go into can satisfy anything you might want. And I believe that you will all be the solutions to our problems. And it will be your responsibility to build tools that will provide us a healthy and prosperous future. And I thank all of you, and if anyone has any questions, I'm... Any questions?
Just your favorite project.
My favorite project has to be the Indiana Jones Stunt Show. Being able to take that from a couple sketches to an opening day show in 10 months was my crowning achievement. I just, you can't imagine the amount of hours I put in. You know, you heard of being tired at the end of the day and falling asleep while you're driving home. I actually was so tired I was falling asleep driving to work. One of the funny things that happened, Disney likes to invite all media to any of its grand openings. And I got tagged to be on a daily morning talk show to talk about the Indiana Jones Stunt Show. Well, I found out that the host wanted to talk to one of the stunt people, not to the project manager. So I heard her arguing, but it was now time to shoot because this was a live show. And they had the director's chair set up. And I'm sitting in a director's chair and she's sitting next to me. And she introduces me, and out of the blue, she hauls off and hits me and knocks me off my chair. Because she wanted a stunt person. She wanted to see a stunt. So I became her guinea pig and was knocked off my chair. So you never can tell what you might, yes?
Which was your last project?
What was my last project?
Yeah.
It was boring, my last project. My last career choice was I became vice president of a construction company here locally, and what we were was a concrete company. So we poured slabs, walkways. So I didn't have the same return on my investment that I got from other shows and rides.
Are you still asked for advice when it comes to rides and everything like these days? Or now that you're retired, you don't participate, get involved in anything directly or not directly?
I'm sorry, what was the question?
I mean, if you are still involved or are asked for advice when it comes to new rides like these days, do you participate or not?
No. I did take a short stint at being an attractions person, and I worked at what was called the Lights, Motors, Action, the Extreme Stunt Show. It involved real cars, and they did a number of performances with both cars and motorcycles, and did scenes out of movies where you have these car chases and they're doing amazing things, getting up on two wheels, going over ramps, all of that. So that gave me a new opportunity to interact with the guests that I generally didn't get, because when I'd finish projects, I'd be there for opening day and see the smiling faces, but pretty much I was then packing up my office and going back to California or onto another project. I did get an opportunity that I worked in the attraction called the Walt Disney Story, and the guests that come through there were Disney fanatics, and so my manager would always drag me out when he had a family that he wanted to give a surprise to. So I would get introduced to them, and I'd share some of my stories with the family.
How did you manage the hard variables, budget, storytelling, engineering, all in one? How did you manage that kind of situation?
I really don't know how I was able to do. I mean, I gave you the background. I had 2 years of college and I worked in the Army as a cook, and suddenly I'm working in engineering and understanding all of the processes of building buildings, and then working the manufacturing and understanding how do you build an animated figure. And at that time, I was a sponge. Everything just came in, and I reacted, and I loved learning more and more. So, yes.
Yeah, I was going to follow up on that because you have an amazing career and you did change multiple times. So I guess my question would be, did you ever second guess, or maybe now, like, was there any time, like a point when you thought, like, oh, maybe I should have stayed where I was, and like this is not going so well? And how did you deal with those insecurities? If it happened?
I never had that.
Oh,
I mean, it was. I can't believe my good fortunes that every time I would step in a direction, there were people pulling me there and say, "Here, we trust in you. Try it. Do it." And I would roll up my sleeves and accomplish that. And so I moved without ever a lull. It just, one thing would happen right after another, and I get these opportunities, which, unfortunately, I think in today's world, it's hard for anyone to get a job and find those kind of amazing opportunities to move and change careers so quickly. So I'm blessed. I mean, even when I went into the Army, I didn't go to Vietnam. I was in the height of the Vietnam War, and I happened to just luck out and get sent to the right place at the right time, so I didn't have to go overseas and fight a war. I don't know why and where the luck came from. I'm not an over religious person. It wasn't that I prayed to God all the time. I just I looked for opportunities, and they were there, and I grabbed them and did my best at proving myself that I could do it.
What was the most exciting part of the project?
Opening day. I mean, I don't know how many saw the television special, but one of the greatest moments was an opening day of EPCOT. It was actually a few days after they had multiple celebrations. And we were sitting around the EPCOT fountain facing Spaceship Earth, and they had a stage up there, and various dignitaries, including Lillian Disney, gave speeches. And at one moment in the celebration, on top of Communicore is like 4 pieces of pie that surround the fountain. They had the McDonald's All-American band up on the roof. Hundreds of instruments up there playing. obviously we had musical talent that wrote scores for that moment. And it's just like Star Wars or any of the other movies you've seen where there's that music that just grabs you. They had that playing, and at all four corners there were representatives from every country in the world in their native costumes, carrying clay jugs of water from their countries. They surrounded the fountain, which was shut off, and as the music hit its high point, they all poured their water into the fountain. And then the fountain came on, interrupted. I cried and cried and cried. And every time I relive that, that's my most magical moment that I'll never, ever forget.
Thank you so much, Ron.
You're welcome.
That was really amazing. That was a very unique opportunity. I truly wish that you will have more opportunity, more chances. I would like to talk to more of our students in the future.
Sure.
It's a true blessing for us, for you to share your experiences, and all your emotions in that also. So on behalf of our team and our group, we do want to thank you. We want to give it a last round of applause.